Hello, my name's Linda Martin. What I'd like to do today is have a look at some different methods of lighting your eggs. A lot of people like to do this and they're a little bit frightened about using soldering irons and getting into the electrical side of stuff. There are simpler methods of doing it where you use pre-wired lights, but in this instance I think we should learn how to do it properly. So, word of warning, if you can do this, it doesn't mean to say you can rewire your own house. Okay, so just be careful. So let's have a look at this one. And this little egg, let's just attach the battery to it. I grabbed this out of my cabinet on the way home and realised that the light switch had actually come away. So you can just see inside, see that lovely little lamp post inside. Now this is done using a conventional switch, so I'll just show you the different components that we have for that. Let's pop this one down again. Okay, so conventional switching. We start with a micro switch, which is this little fella here. And you can see you've got three little connectors on there. Okay, and then we have the battery snap or battery connector, which it obviously attaches to your battery. And then your light source, which will be something like one of these little grain of wheat bulbs. Now then, when you're looking at wiring up something for your eggs, what you're going to be doing is creating a circuit. So in other words, a circle. Now I did a quick drawing earlier, let's just show you this. So we have our light bulb, and then we have the battery connector attached to the little rectangular 9-volt battery, and then those two complete the circle with the switch. Now when the circle is broken by turning the switch on and off, you will find that that's how you get your light to turn on and off. But in order to do that, you have to wire the light bulb, one of the little fly leads from the light bulb, to the outer pin, and then from the inner pin, which is either the off or the on position, you wire that through to your battery connector, which obviously has got, let's just look at that one again. So we've got two wires, two leads coming off there. Now the colour doesn't matter. Okay, red and black, it doesn't matter. You're not sort of dealing with high voltage or anything like that. So you can wire red to black if you wish. It's easier sometimes if you just do red to red and black to black. So that goes onto the battery. So one onto the switch, one onto the bulb. So it's very, very simple. But let's just have a look at the different components again, and we'll look at how they're going to be connected together. So let's move this out of the way. Now I have got my soldering iron switched on. I'm hoping that by now it's heated up sufficiently for me to actually start working properly. So I have my little tube of solder. This is lead-free solder, 1 mil. Okay. You can pick this sort of thing up at any DIY stores. And I've stripped back the wires slightly on all of my components so that I've exposed a length of wire here. Okay, what I'm going to do is what's called tinning the wire. So with any luck, let's find something I can rest my hands against. Ah, there it is, there's the cushion. Just need something to steady everything. Okay, because you could really do with about 6 pairs of hands sometimes when you're doing this. So I'm going to be wiring one of these wires to, let's go with the battery snap. But first we'll tin it. So just bend the solder. It's quite stiff so you can easily bend it. And what I'm going to do is, let's just check my soldering iron. Again, these are bought quite cheaply from DIY stores. So what I'm going to do is just pop a little blob of solder. There it goes, see? Alright, a little bit of solder just on the end there. You can just see the copper colour is changing to silver. This will make it easier for attaching to the other end of the wires on the other components. Same again here. Just make sure that's covered. Okay. I'm sure there are electricians absolutely cringing at the way that I'm doing this, but this will work for you, don't worry. Okay, so I'm just going to wipe the end of that off onto a piece of toweling and pop my soldering iron safely to one side so that it doesn't go flying off anywhere or burn anything. So those are the two ends tinned there. So now we'll take the other component that has the wires, which is the battery connector. Okay, we're just going to again try and get that in a good position and get back in, back with the with the soldering iron. Just picking up a little blob of solder and just running it along the wire. The wire itself is made up of several different filaments, so what you're actually doing by this method is to just fuse them together so it's easier to work with them afterwards. So that's the black one done. Let's have the red one. And then just try and get that in a good position so you're not working too remotely from the ends of the wire. There we go. Okay, right, give that a wipe. Try and clean that off a bit. Okay, so we've got the ends tinned. So the next thing is to take the wire from one of the bulbs, one of the wires, one of the fly leads, and we're going to attach that to one of the wires from the battery snap. So I'm just going to twist those together, trying to keep everything as tidy as possible, like so. And then we might as well do the switch at the same time. Whoops, sorry about that. And we'll take that to the middle one. So I'm just threading that wire through the middle pin and then back over onto itself and giving it a twist so that the wire is secured like so. And then, so now we have our bulb attached to the battery connector, one part of the switch, and so we now need to go in with the other part of the switch. You have to be careful that the two wires that are coming into the switch don't touch each other, otherwise you'll have a completed circuit and a continuous light. So let's just pop it through that way. So this is the wire coming now from the other side of the battery connector, and wrapping that firmly around like so. Now what I would do at this stage before you do anything else is check that everything is working, and by doing, the only way you can do that is to attach the battery, and very stupidly I only brought one battery home with me. So let's just remove this battery from this egg, pop that to one side, and we'll just double check. So press stud connections, very, very simple to use. Just push that firmly into position, and as you can see I have no light. Keep your fingers crossed. Now I do, because I've got my circuit completed, broken by the switch. Okay, so that's all done. What we have to do now, let's take that off again, is make sure that these connections are secure, and we do that by adding more solder. So again, let's bend the end of the solder and take the soldering iron again. I could do, oh, that's better. I had the cable hooked up on something. You really don't want to know how many cables I've got attached on, to sockets at the moment. I've got sockets everywhere, I've got cables everywhere. So I've got the camera, 2 lights, the soldering iron. Well, I've not made a terribly neat job of that, but at least I know it's attached. Just let it time to set, give it a bit of a tug, and it's absolutely fine. And then the other one is a little bit more fiddly. So I'm going to just give myself a little bit more solder bent over, and let's try and do this without making a mess. Whoops. It's a bit fiddly to do with when you're not leaning on anything, so let's just, ooh, there we go. Nice blob of solder going on there, and it's well away from the other wire. And then again at this side, connecting up the other one. So it's actually a lot simpler than you maybe have thought, and that is your very, very basic circuit. So what you would do is, when you're using this, as I've done with this egg here, is you can use a hollow base, feed your, that's where your battery is going to be held, okay? You've got a hole at one side where you can feed the switch, so that's switched on and off from the outside. You could even sight it on here on the top. It's entirely up to you where you position it. And then your components, your wiring goes up through the middle of the hollow stem stand, up inside the egg to whatever it is that you're lighting. So in this instance, instead of using the light bulb, I've actually used one of our tiny lamp posts, which are really quite cute. The only downside with these is the wires tend to be a bit on the thin side, so do be careful when you're stripping the wire back. And if I pop that, where's the battery gone? If I just pop the 2 ends on the battery, just on the connectors, you can see that should be working okay. Let's just get them on there. There you go. Alright. But as I say, you've got to be careful because these wires are quite thin. Now the other thing that I would be inclined to do when I'm using the lighting components is literally to just pop a little bit of micropore tape over, let's just peel a bit off, just to protect that soldered joint. Because if this were to touch a component that's metal, which is almost certainly going to be the inside of the hollow stem stand, you could find that it maintains the circuit's affected. So just to be secure, just pop a little bit of tape over there. Okay, now we mentioned hollow stem stands. We actually manufacture a variety of these, so you could do something for a larger egg, in which case we have these two. So again, you've got a decent amount of room inside there through the centre to attach your components. We also have, these are some I designed several years ago actually. Oops, not that one, this one. A slightly narrower hole, but the components will go through. Okay. And then this one, which has got some quite pretty patterning on it, little leaf designs. Again, centre hole, so you could use that for your lighting. And then the other one, which I tend to go for, which works for so many different designs, big hole in the centre. We call this our donut stand, but we've got nicknames for a lot of them actually. So that one I've used on the egg that I've shown you here. So that's your basic lighting kit. Now, I know some of you who have perhaps seen what I've been doing on Facebook have been aware of another design which I did. Let's move this one out of the way. and pop this one here. Now let me just make sure I've got everything. Let's get the battery on. This egg is known as the old toy shop, and it's quite a complicated design. I'm just going to pop my, that's it, just rest it on there so I can actually use both hands to attach this. Okay, now the other thing as well which I suggest you do is double-sided Velcro tape. Okay, the self-adhesive stuff. If you put a strip onto your battery, a strip inside your hollow base, and then you can hold your battery firmly in place by attaching the two together. So that's quite useful. What I would suggest though is that you allow quite a bit of time for the Velcro to adhere to the battery before you actually attach it, because it may just sort of pull off with the weight of the battery. Anyway, let's have a look at this egg now, because this uses a different lighting technique. This is using a reed switch. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't find the figurine that I had to sit in front of the toy shop window. Let me just bring that forward a little bit further. Let's just move this up a fraction. And hopefully you can see more of the egg now. This one I taught some years ago over the course of 2 days. And you can imagine the fun that people had doing this lattice work. That is all very, very tiny petal-shaped lattice work. And then the decoration on the back, which is paper toiled. And the actual toy shop, there's a panel which slides down through. There's a slot here, all the way over the top and back to the other side. So the toy shop frontage slides through that panel and is then trimmed right back and disguised. Now inside here, I don't know how much of this you can see, we have a little Christmas tree, we've got a doll's house, there's a teddy bear, there's a shelf at the back with an abacus, some toy bricks. Oh crumbs, I'd forgotten I'd made this many bits and pieces for it. And there's a light on the wall, there's a light on the Christmas tree, but there's no switch. So how are we going to do this? Well, the reed switch is a way of disguising the fact that something is illuminated. And the way that this works is, let's show you my little sketch that I did earlier. Okay, so this is the reed switch. It's a bit crude, but it's like a little test tube. I'll show you the actual switch. But it is, whoops, it is tiny. Okay. And because it's made of glass with wires, it's also quite fragile. So you have to be a little bit careful when you're working with it. Basically what it is a glass test tube with wires coming in from either side, which are spaced very slightly apart. The rest of the kit consists of your light, your battery snaps. So just like the other one, but with a different switch. The way that you complete the circuit is not by turning a switch on in the conventional way, but by placing a disc magnet over the top of the test tube, or the reed switch as it's known, because of the two reeds coming through. That draws the two reeds together and completes the circuit. So let's have a quick look at the components for that. So I've shown you the actual reed switch. And then we have the light source, the little grain of wheat bulb again. So as with the other lighting kit, that attaches to the light at one side, and then on the other side you have the battery connector going to the other end of the light switch, the light. Okay, so again your circuit is being completed with this section here being the switch. So what can you achieve with it? Let me show you. I won't bother soldering all these bits together because it will take a bit of time. However, imagine that I have a figurine of a little girl, and underneath that figurine is a magnet. Underneath the platform inside this egg you have the reed switch positioned firmly in place. Okay, you can tape it in, you can glue it in, do whatever you want with it, but you need to know where it is. And what I've done is I've created, because this was based on the story of the little match girl, which I used to absolutely adore as a child. I remember going to stay with my grandparents, and my great-grandma lived with them, and my sister and I used to get into bed with her first thing in the morning, because she used to wake up before everybody else, and we'd get into bed with her and she would tell us the story of the little match girl, and I used to boo my eyes out. It makes me tearful even now. It was just such a sad, sad story. So I based it on that. So I had the little girl standing in front of the window with her magnet. When you moved her into the correct position, you ready? I'll get this a bit closer. Can you see the lights come on now at the side? There's also a light, you can just about see it, at the top of the Christmas tree. So the inside of the toy shop is all illuminated. Now you can use this to create a scene. I've done Christmassy eggs where I've put a pile of parcels under a Christmas tree and one loose parcel which has the magnet inside. Pop it in front of the tree, and as if by magic all the lights come on. Now I've got two lights here, and all I needed to do to create the two light effect was add an extra light bulb into my circle. Now what you can do is attach, if you put the extra light within the circle, so let's go back to the original one. Okay, so we have, let's move this over. Perhaps you can see better then. So if we just added an extra light bulb into this circle of components, the same power would be travelling all the way through. If you decided to attach a second light bulb here and here, whoops, you would find that the power would be reduced, so you get a dimmer light. So there's different ways of doing it anyway. But those are the basic methods of lighting, and there's not an awful lot to it. You just need to be a little bit confident about your ability to solder, and it doesn't matter if you make a mess of it, because you can always snip the wires back and start again. Make sure, as I say, with your circuit, make sure you protect the soldered joints. Make sure that you don't get anything touching between these two. You don't want any of the loose wires touching each other, otherwise the switch section becomes useless because it's just a continuous circuit. So there we go. So we have our little toy shop design, and we have our, I think what I called that one, it's called Waiting for Christmas. Let's just twiddle that round the back so you can see what the back's like. So you've got the holly motif. Just fancied doing something a little bit different colour-wise, and this little doll that we have is just perfect. So I'm sure you can come up with masses and masses of ideas for using the lights. You know, just think what could be lit up and go for it. Don't be frightened. That's the important thing. Now, if you've enjoyed watching this video and you want to be made aware of any others that we do, just click the subscribe button and you should receive emails letting you know, or messages letting you know when we've got something new coming up. And if you like it, let me know. If there's anything else that you would like to see being done, again, let me know. I'm open to suggestions. So hopefully we'll be doing some more full-length seminar style DVDs soon as well. We've got a few of those on our website, which is www.lindamartineggdesigns.com. You can buy them as downloads, or you can buy them as actual DVDs. But we're trying to get some more of the freebies on YouTube for you so that we can encourage you to get some more work done and just try some different techniques. Okay, well, thanks very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'm dying to see all of your new eggs with lights in. Do send me photos, please. Just join our Facebook pages and share what you can, because if we all share what we do, more people will enjoy it and we'll have a lot more fun, especially nowadays with lockdown again. So hopefully this will all be over and done with soon, and we can get back to normal and get back to meeting each other and having classes and shows and things. Anyway, take care all of you, and thanks very much for watching. Bye for now.